it's really webinars like this where you will find more talking than doing. But otherwise, if you attend one of our face-to-face workshops, the experiential element is really strong. Okay. We are also an ISO company certified by this rather elite German body called TÜV, and we're quite active on the social media these days. So those of you who don't follow us, you can, check out the work that we do. The link is on the screen. You can check us out on our Facebook page, on our LinkedIn page. We typically pick up certain topics and cover them over a week, and then move on to another topic. So that's also a way for you to learn on the fly. Okay. So let me plunge in. I mean, I'm aware that a lot of you might be here to really understand what this whole the dynamics of enjoying the work that you do is about, rather than knowing what Bodhi does. So let me get into the crux of this webinar. So what I'm going to share with you now is, like I mentioned, a lot of the people who I train in workshops that I conduct, a lot of the people who I meet through one-on-one feedback sessions, feedback for psychometric assessments, one-on-one coaching sessions that we do, one of the recurrent themes is that they don't seem to be enjoying the work that they're doing. And there are loads of symptoms. I'm really not going to be able to talk about all of them during the course of this webinar, but what I will be doing is telling you about some of the popular highlights. These are what I've seen to be very common, working with most of this 30% that I told you, as well as something which I think will really help you understand and evaluate, think about your own approach to your work and how you feel about your own job, and it will give you a glimpse or an idea of where you stand on the scale. Okay, so the first one, I'm sure you know what this means. The really classic Monday morning blues. People not wanting to get up and get to work on Monday. There's a lot of interesting research which shows that absenteeism is highest on Monday mornings. Even the number of occurrences of heart attacks are higher on Monday mornings. Okay, so if you are somebody, ask yourself, how do you feel on Monday mornings? Do you feel sick about getting up and getting out of bed, getting to work? If you do, then you're probably, what should I say, subject to this phenomenon. Okay, and that is an indicator that you should there is something for you to look at about the work that you're doing, and how you're doing it. Is there a possibility for you to enjoy and make more sense of what you do for a living? So this certainly is one of them. In fact, I really like this. I like this cartoon because there's this. It says Monday. It says cross. There's this cross of the Monday here on the right top, and there is also this coffee mug on the right which says flu. Okay, so this is certainly one indicator. The other, and perhaps the opposite indicator, is what I'd like to call Happy Friday, or let the weekend begin. The phenomenon of TGIF. And interestingly, it seems to be accepted and understood across the world. When you say TGIF, people know what you're talking about, and not only do they know it intellectually as an idea, but a lot of them have also experienced it and know what that's about. So if you feel, for example, uh, think of yourself on the last Friday. Those of you who don't work 5-day weeks but work 6-day weeks, think of it as TGIS. Thank God it's Saturday. So think about how you feel on a Saturday evening. If you find yourself, if you find that feeling to be drastically different from what you've experienced through the rest of the week starting Monday morning, I don't know if that's a good spot for you to be in, because if you're working a whole week, or just imagine 4 weeks in a month, and there are just few hours of that month, when you're perhaps just about to leave work on a Friday or a Saturday, that you feel awesome, that is something for you to think about. Because a lot of us spend a big amount of our working life trying to we're showing up to offices or businesses that we run or places where we teach and train in whatever, and spending a good amount of waking life there. So a lot of us typically spend, even if you're doing a 9 to 5 job, which is less by today's standards, what that means is you're spending about roughly 40 hours a week, doing a job. And if there are just few of those hours which you enjoy, that's something to certainly be concerned about. Um, this is something that I want to really bring out, which is about breaks. I mean, I remember distinctly speaking to this one gentleman about a couple of years ago, and we were in a one-on-one session in a small little conference room, and he was sharing with me. I was giving him some feedback on his behavior at work, and he said he comes to work on Monday morning and starts waiting for the weekend. Okay. And he also mentioned that what he really looks forward to are the breaks. He looks forward to the first coffee break, the smoke break. He was a smoker, the lunch break, the evening break, and then leaving office in the evening. This went on from Monday to Friday, and then the weekend comes, and then he'll really look forward to the weekend. And then after that, the same grind continued. So ask yourself this question. Do you look forward to getting back to your desk after lunch, or when you get there in the morning, when you get to work in the morning, or after a tea break? Or is what you're looking for really what's happening during the break? So, okay, I see some questions here on the chat screen. Um, I will answer them as we go along because there are parts of this webinar which would be more closely related to these questions. So if you have any other questions, you can put them up on the chat screen. I'm watching the screen very closely. Okay, so yeah, if you're a person who's really looking forward to the breaks rather than work, then I think then we have a problem. Okay, so that's something for you to think about. Okay. This is another big phenomenon, and I think this has been happening increasingly because I've I've been looking around and I feel that in a lot of countries, especially countries like India, the the number of people who are actually taking vacations is going up. You know, with websites like Make My Trip and Clear Trip and so on, the opportunity to travel is far more affordable and so on. So there are a lot of people traveling. But what I'd like to point out here is I can understand somebody who's worked a heavy week, didn't have a proper weekend, and then because of the lack of a break, finds it a little difficult to get to work the next week. Yearns for this real proper break to refresh and rejuvenate. If that's one thing. But on the other hand, I do meet a lot of people who tell me I just had a 2 week vacation. I had a 1 month vacation in Europe. And even after that 1 month vacation, which you've taken where you've traveled, seen the place, ate good food, had fun, spent time with the people that you like and so on, and got this really amazing break, you're refreshed, your mind is clear. Even after that, you have something called as uh, the back to work syndrome, where you really feel disappointed on the last couple of days, especially the last day of your vacation because it's getting over, and don't look forward to coming back to your regular life. And this is something for you to think about because I mean you'd also find this on my personal website, something about the articles about this. It's called vineshsukumaran.com. You can check it out. But a big part of the work that I do is to help people find greater meaning in their work and in their lives. So if you're not looking forward to coming back to work even after a long extended break, I definitely think there's a serious problem, something that you need to look at, something that you need to address. It is as bad as somebody who says, I've had a big break forget about work. For a moment, if you just leave work out of this, it's like somebody who said, I've had a great break and I just don't want to go back home. I hate going back home. And when somebody tells me that, it makes me think there is something wrong with this person's family, this person's home, this person's normal life. To start with, you've got to enjoy and cherish and value your regular life at home, at the city that you belong, at the job that you belong. This is fundamental. If you don't do that, it's like a person who doesn't who sort of hates himself or herself and doesn't want to really look inward, but constantly wants to distract themselves by going for parties, traveling, going out, and so on. But you're just uncomfortable sitting with yourself alone in a room, and that's a very disturbing sort of mindset to have. So that's, if you are one of those people, that's something for you to think about. Especially, you might say, well, this is just about work. Is it that serious? Well, it's something for you to think about. And if you don't like coming back to your fulcrum, your own the center of your own life, then what are we talking about? Okay. So this is this is something which I've noticed with people, which who especially people who say, I don't enjoy the work that I do, and I ask them, what is it about the work that you do that they enjoy? There is a category of people who constantly told me that just coming into office, getting into that building, getting out of the cab, coming and sitting at their desk, and having all these people around them who are working, talking, this puts a lot of pressure on them. And it's not just social impact. It's not just social pressure. There is a kind of pressure which sort of makes people, uh, if I can call this, it's almost like social anxiety or performance anxiety, where just being in office is strenuous. Forget about the work that you do, the difficulty of the job, your level of competence, and all those things. Just coming and being in the building, in the presence of all these people. I mean, there are people who've told me, you know, when I just walk out of office, and that's what this is. This is obviously Jim Carrey from, I think if I'm right, the movie's Ace Ventura, uh, where he says that moment when you walk out of work. So there are people who've told me, when I just come out of office, when I get out of the building and I get onto my bike or get into my car to leave, I feel like, what a relief. And not because work was difficult, but just being at work puts you into a state which is not normal for you, which is not comfortable for you, which is not the state you'd like to be in. And this is really sad, because if that's what it is, then you're going to be spending 40 to 50 hours every week uh, being in this uncomfortable state. And I'm fairly certain this would give rise to a lot of other problems like health issues, heartburn, gastritis, headaches, and what have you. So this is the other symptom, and as I mentioned, these are not the only symptoms, but these are symptoms which I've found repeatedly among people who told me that they don't like what they're doing, they're not enjoying their jobs, they're finding out ways to do it, and so on. My real interest in sharing this with you is for you to evaluate where you stand on this. How many of these do you experience? Okay, and there's no need to share this with anybody. You just ask yourself, does this apply to your life? If it doesn't, fantastic. Okay. If none of this applies to you, I'm telling you right away, you don't need this webinar. Okay. But if some of these apply to you, you can hang on here and let's see what else is there. So I want to just leave you with this last symptom. So I'm sort of increasing the intensity of of these symptoms. This last symptom is really about somebody who might be kind of enjoying work, but doesn't really experience flow. Like, for example, you get to work, flow is this great concept, which is from this field of positive psychology. What it means is, when you're doing a job that you like, time stands still, or time gets warped in some way. You don't realize how time flies past. Um, you really enjoy the moment. You get into this sort of meditative state where you work for 1 hour, but then when you finish, when you just get up from your seat and look around, you don't feel drained, you feel refreshed. Yes. So if you're looking at this and saying, what, you work for an hour and you feel refreshed, then uh, I can't relate to that. Then I don't think you might have experienced flow. But if you have, if you do relate to what I'm saying, then that's really what flow is. But the symptom is, of course, that you have been at a job or doing what you're doing for many years, but you never experienced the sense of flow. Like if you're a person who gets to office in the morning, constantly watching the clock, and you just feel like, oh my God, when is it going to be evening? Then that's probably the opposite of flow. Okay. Um, so here's what I want to also share with you. This is something not just for yourself. You can ask yourself this, but also look at the people around you. In some companies, I've noticed the culture of not enjoying work is extremely strong. You just ask anybody about work, not whether they're enjoying it or not. Just ask them about work. Okay? If you just ask them, so how's it going? How's work going for you? And you'll find people just telling you all everything that's going wrong. Where oh, there's too much work, the management is not doing a good job. Um, when are they going to increase our salaries? I think the work timing is pathetic, and so on. So if you're one of those people who's constantly having, or who constantly has just the wrong things or the negative things to report, then I think this is something for you to think about. Okay, I see somebody. There's a question here which said, do people, okay, so here's the question, which I said I'll answer later. So the question is, this person who says, okay, so do people who, does what you say, okay, so the question essentially is, does what you say about your work tell you something about whether you enjoy your job or not? Yeah, well, so here you go. Here's the answer to that question. Yes, it certainly tells you about not just the work that you do, but how you're doing it and how much you're enjoying it. If you're constantly reporting and only able to see the downside of your job, that's probably how you experience your job. Okay, but if you're a person who's able to enjoy your job, see the upside, and look at, there are clear dimensions of your job which you love, then I think that's a symbol of someone who's seeing the job as more something more positive rather than something which is which they're forced to do, which is a drain, which they just have to do out of circumstances and so on. All right. So there's another question. Oh, yeah. So there's one more person. I don't see the name here, but the question is, before I move on to the next part, which is strengthening your basics, here's a question which says, isn't a lack of joy at work an output of wrong recruitment or fitment? Well, I think I spent a big part of my working life with organizations which helped better recruitment, as well as training people to recruit better, assess people better, put the right people in the right job, and so on. I have to agree with what you're asking. Well, that is true. A big part of it is about people being recruited for the wrong roles. But this is how I look at it. Um, I see it as also the person's responsibility, in the sense that, how much do you think a company could possibly care about somebody who doesn't even work for them yet, in terms of ensuring, helping them find the right job, though they should ideally be doing that. But I think the a larger ownership lies on the part of the employee or the person who's seeking a job, to try his best to first of all seek out the right job, seek out what he's really cut out to do, and try to fit himself there, and not throw that responsibility onto any employer, because it's your life. At the end of the day, the employer is hiring you to do something for them. Yes. Yes, it's really great if you can do it with ownership, if you can do it with, like you're running your own business and so on. Those are nice fancy terms to hear. But importantly, I think as individuals, we hold the responsibility of finding what we really love to do and chasing it. Yes. Okay. So yeah, I have another question here, which is, will psychometrics help during recruitment? This is somebody called Trini. Okay, so Trini, oh Trini, yes, I remember you. Okay, so Trini, yes, psychometrics do help for recruitment, but the point that I'd like to make is that it should be treated as an indicator. Your fitment, for example, since I presume you asked the previous question, your fitment to a job has various dimensions to it. One dimension could perhaps be your IQ level. If you're too intelligent for a job, that job could be as boring for you as if your intelligence is too low for what the job requires. So there is an ideal level of intelligence. Just like that, there's an ideal behavioral fit, there's an ideal emotional intelligence compatibility, there's an ideal, what should I say, skill, compatibility, and so on. So psychometrics assess mostly one or two dimensions, and you should be aware that it should be treated as an indicator rather than a hire or fire tool or a go or no go instrument. Yes. Okay, so let me move on. So what is it that you can do? So here are the real answers. Uh, Here are some things that I have shared with people who've used it, which has worked for them. Okay, these are things which I've told people who I've coached. I've got them to work on it. I've shared with people who I've worked with on one-on-one as well as in training programs. And not only have I shared this with them, a lot of them have gone back, used it, come back and told me, you know what, I feel much better about my job now. Or they've come back and said, you know what, this is what I did. It changed my life, and this is how I work better nowadays. And a lot of this has happened. And my interest in sharing this with you is not just to share the knowledge, is to get you to be here, understand this, go back and apply it in your life. And I can assure you, it will bring about concrete change in the way you experience your work. And I can say this with a lot of conviction because I myself, though I do work nowadays in the area of, applied psychology and understanding human behavior and using it for corporate effectiveness to enhance individual effectiveness and so on, my background is in mechanical engineering, and I have moved out of the engineering field into doing what really tickled me and what I really loved, and I can tell you that it's worked in my own life. So I don't see any reason why it should not work for you. Okay, so the first thing that you could do. So I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee, by the way. uh, One of the things Bruce Lee said a lot of things, a lot of amazing things. One of the things that he did say was, do not pray for an easy day, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. So here's what happens with a lot of people. People think, I was recently listening to a talk, and people get there. This coach was talking about uh, coaching the sports people, and he said when people play tennis, there are two kinds of people who take a shot. There's one person who's receiving a shot, but in his head thinking, oh God, I hope he fouls, I hope he fouls. But there's another person who's standing there saying, give me your best shot, give me your toughest shot, and I'm gonna tackle it. So if you enter a career, or your work life thinking and praying that it's going to be easy, if you're going to work every day thinking, oh God, I wish today there's not much work, I wish today is an easy day, that's something you can be assured that work will be a long, arduous journey for you. But on the other hand, if you're a person who's trying to get better at what you're doing, so the point that I'm really making here is become more competent. This is a universal phenomenon. I have hardly met people, one of the other qualities that I've seen in people who don't enjoy what they do, they are actually incompetent in many areas of their work life. There are very few people who are extremely competent, do their jobs really well, you know, and still hate what they're doing. It's a very unlikely phenomenon. A lot of the people who are doing their jobs really well are people who love their jobs as well as who are able to do it, who are really competent to do it. One of the phenomena of, of human beings is that they love doing something that they're good at. They really love doing things that they're good at. And this is what happens with a lot of people who climb the corporate ladder. They realize they're getting better and better and better at something, and therefore they start enjoying it all the more. And when you start enjoying it more, you actually have the time and mental space to become even better at it, till you reach a point where people look up to you. You feel good about going to work and doing the job so well that people admire you, ask you for advice, come to you for help. All these things have a phenomenal feel-good element in it. So this is something that I suggest to all of you. Do work on, look at what are your three top areas where you struggle at work, and build your competence in order to get better at it. So this is one thing, and this point really is telling you that, look, don't think this webinar is about getting an easy ride. Because so there are some parts which are easy, which you can do, which will work for you, but there are some parts which require you to work hard on yourself to make yourself a stronger, better person. And that's what will, it's not just going to make you start liking your job. It's going to change your lifestyle. It's going to change your earning potential. It's going to change the way you feel about your life and personal growth. So that's one thing that you could do. This is another interesting thing. So this is a popular book by, the writer's name is written there. His name is Brian Tracy, which is called Eat That Frog. And I'm sure some of you might have read this book. So here what Brian Tracy is really talking about, as it's written there, 21 great ways to stop procrastinating and get more done in less time. So I've noticed this among some people, where they get to work, they know that there's something really critical that needs to be done, and not only is it critical, it's also something which is slightly more difficult to do. And instead of doing it, what do? They put it away. And they say, okay, it's just Monday today, I'm going to take it easy, I'll do it on Tuesday. And then Tuesday comes, and then, as you keep pushing it by each day, it's mounting. It's creating this sort of mental pressure. It's creating this, sense of, there is something to do, I haven't done it, it's incomplete, I need to go back to it. It's like filing your taxes. I'm sure some of us might have experienced this. You've got to pay your taxes, file your returns, but because you don't like to get into the nitty-gritty, get all the bills out, calculate it, call your chartered accountant, you sort of keep putting it away. But you can put it away, but it's in your head. And the more you put it away, the stronger it becomes in your head, because it's telling you, I'm still here. Take care of me. Address me. So instead, when you get to work, plan it this way. Let's start with the day. Okay? Start your day with doing the most difficult and critical things on your list. And if you can do that, that's really what Eat That Frog is about. Once you finish that, what happens is it eases out the rest of your day. And you feel like, wow. And a lot of these people, even the ones who I'm telling you about, who don't enjoy their jobs, they love to be at work when there's nothing much to do. They love to be at work on easy days. They love to be at work on days when there's an outing, when there's there isn't a strict deadline, a project release is just gotten over, and they're just off the hook. And you can create that phenomenon for yourself by sorry, I have some question here. Can you make me the presenter? Apologies, I clicked something accidentally. Please ignore that request. Okay, fine. Oh, no worries, Mr. Who's this? Oh, not Mr. Brushali. Don't worry, Brushali. I'm not going to make you the presenter, so relax. Okay, so what happens is you can create that phenomenon by finishing the toughest things that you have to do first thing in the morning. Now look at the whole week. Okay, within the week, there would be 2 or 3 or 4 really critical things for you to finish that week, and not just critical, also the most difficult, time consuming, mentally intense things for you to do. You should really try to get that out of the way on Monday. And you know what this is going to do? This is going to make you uh, enjoy the rest of the week. And what happens is, over time, you're going to realize that you have a great, first of all, you have the sense of over-preparedness. You're going to be like that tennis player who's waiting, who's saying, give me your toughest shot. Okay? And not like the wimp who's saying, I hope the other person falters. Secondly, when this happens, it releases a lot of pressure from inside you, and it makes you feel awesome in terms of saying, okay, well, the tough part is over, so all I have to do now is just relax and enjoy the rest of the week by doing the other things, because I've finished the most difficult part. And I urge all of you to consider doing this. And it's not just for the week, even for the month. Look at what are the most critical things for you to get done that month, and finish that maybe in the first 2 or 3 days of the month or the first week of the month. And do the same thing for the quarter, for half the year, and for the entire year. So what happens is, imagine you do this for the whole year. You have some really critical stuff to achieve. You've actually gotten done with it by Feb or March. Okay? And you're not concerned then about being fired. You're not concerned about job security. You're not concerned about pressure that will mount later in the year and so on, because you've already done. In fact, we had somebody like that in Bodhi last year. He got this huge order during Feb of the month, and a big part of his annual. He was part of the sales team, by the way. A big part of his annual target was met, and it really took the load off him. It really just took the load off him. And one of the points that I get from people is that, what if you're an organization then where if you met your sales target, they're going to give you another target and push you. Well, you could be in an organization like that, and I have to confess, there are companies which do that. But let me tell you, it still puts you in a better spot. It's gonna help you do this better. It's going to help you become really competent at what you do. Imagine if you are meeting 1.5 times the productivity and revenue targets of the rest of your team. you know so that's about eat that frog. Do the most difficult things first, get it out of the way, and life's going to be a lot easier. You're going to start enjoying work just because of that. This is something which I urge a lot of you to do. It this reminds me of you have to be aware that a lot of you spend all of us spend so much of time doing the work that we do, that you can't help taking some qualities from work to other areas of our lives. For example, um, I remember meeting this gentleman some over 10 years ago, and he said one of his problems is he's an introvert, he doesn't talk much, he can't interact with people, he's very docile, and he wants to change all that. He wants to get into this new avatar of being a very driving, pushy, loud, talkative person. And I said, fantastic. So I suggested some books that he could read. I suggested some things. And he was also somebody who didn't enjoy his job. And I said, since you like doing all this, okay, and he thought that sales was a good spot for him to be in. But he said, I'm a person who's so quiet, I don't interact much. How can I be in sales? And I said, that's exactly why you need to be in sales, because these are qualities you want to develop. So you want to be in a space, be in a job which helps you develop those qualities. And that's going to be like a training program or an MBA program for you. It's a different story altogether if by nature you're not looking forward to being a person who talks a lot and interacts with others. Yes? So anyway, the long and the short of it is that this guy moved out of his job in a networking company, and um, moved into a business development job, also in another networking company. But he started slowly by doing a techno commercial role, and then he moved into a completely commercial role. And I met him after many years in a conference, and he said, you know what? my whole persona has changed so much, and I could see it. I could see it from the way he came and spoke to me, and I realized that. And he said, I've become a pushy, driving person. Even when I go to buy a refrigerator with my wife, I have that sense of pushiness. I've become a go-getter in all areas of my life. I talk more, not just at work, but also at parties, also when I go for family functions. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that the qualities that you demonstrate and develop through work, you can't leave them back at work and walk out in the evenings. You can't leave them back at work and not have those qualities in the weekends. You will carry them with you throughout. And uh, one of the things you could therefore do is build some positive qualities which you can carry with you. So one of the reasons why people don't enjoy work is they're constantly looking at the negative, and this point is really a solution for what I told you about people constantly negative reporting. Try this out. From tomorrow, or from today, if you like, write down, just write down and focus all your attention on what are the things that are great about your job. I'm sure there's something. What are the things that are great about your job? I mean, I meet some people who find all the wonderful things about their job after they quit. They leave a company, move into another company, and they say, oh, when I used to be in Toyota, I used to do this. In Toyota, we always did it like this. In my previous organization, IBM, we always, documented like, their love and admiration for their company comes out after they leave it. And I think this is a quality which many of us carry right from college. When you're in college, it seems like the worst place on the planet. And when you leave your college, you're like really proud about the college you went to and so on. So the time to be proud and look at the brighter side is now. So write down, you can maintain a log. It doesn't have to be a diary. Now with the kind of phones and smartphones that we have, you can just open a doc file or a note file. Write down all the things that you really love about your job. Okay? Just make it a habit to make a list and keep stretching this list. You'll be amazed to see how over time you will start noticing more and more things about your job, which are wonderful. You'll start noticing a lot of things about your job which you actually like. The problem with a lot of us is we do the opposite. We focus our entire energy on the things about our job which we don't like. And guess what? You'll actually find more and more and more of those. It's a given. So this is another element that you could do. Okay, so this is about strengthening the fundamentals or the basics. What else works? I want to, since we have about 15 minutes of this webinar left, of 14 minutes, 15 minutes, I want to share with you some more things that you could do, which I found works with a lot of people, and I've shared with people. Before that, do we have any questions here? Somebody said, is it... Okay, there's a person here who says, should I make a note of the things that I love about my job at work or after work? Well, here's what I suggest. You can do it after work, but a lot of times when you sit back after work on a Monday night and you think, okay, what did I love about my job today? You could do that. I mean, that's certainly one way to do it. But another thing which I suggest you do is, how long does it take for you to just make a note? You know, Imagine you're at work, you picked up the phone, you have one particular client, and when you talk to him, you guys laugh, you guys have fun. He knows you really well, so he cracks jokes about you, you crack jokes about him, and you spoke to him for 15 minutes and you loved it. And you put the phone down and you say, and you're actually feeling you're at a different energy level and state compared to what you were, earlier or after that. So this might sort of slip your mind when you go back and think about it in the evening, because a lot of negative stuff came up later and that clouded your vision of the rest of the day. So it's a good idea for you to quickly make a note of this and say, I love talking to Mr. X at work because, those 15 minutes I constantly enjoy. Every time I talk to him, I love it. So I think it's a good idea to sort of just put a reminder if you like, and then expand on that sentence and make it, explain the whole story of what you enjoyed later. But yeah, it's good to capture things as they happen, because memories are mighty short. Okay. One more person says, That's very true. What you focus on multiplies. Yes, thank you very much for that. Okay, so what else works? So here are some more things that you could do. Huh. This is something that I've used in my own life. And those of you who haven't seen this, you should watch this really wonderful talk, which was given sometime last year, or last year was 2015. I think it was given at the end of 2014, okay, at the University of Texas by this gentleman called William McRaven. And what he says is I mean, the talk is really about his experience with the U.S., naval forces, the Navy. And he says that the Navy SEAL training is so intense. And he talks about all the difficulties of the SEAL training and the lessons that he learned from them and so on. And in the end, he talks about his last point in the talk is never, ever ring the bell. So he talks about this bell that's there. And if you break down at some point in the in the Navy SEAL training, if you feel you can't take it anymore, you're done with waking up early, jumping into the cold water, swimming, going through this grind and hard work, you can go and just ring the bell. If you ring the bell, your training stops there. You can exit the training, you go back into the regular services, and there's no waking up in the morning, there's no hard work, there's nothing. You're free of it. Yes? And he says never ever ring the bell. But here's what I noticed. Just knowing that you have the option, knowing that you can quit. A lot of times people start hating their job more. They worked in a company for 3 years and the company sent, I mean, this is a real story of somebody I know. The company sent this guy to London for a month and said, if you want to go to London for a month, you have to sign a 2-year bond with us. He said, okay. So he goes to London, comes back, signs a 2-year bond. When he signs a bond, he starts hating his job more. Just knowing that he can't leave, knowing that he can't quit, makes things look duller. Left alone, he might have actually worked there for 4 more years. But because of the bond, he was waiting for it to get over and he pulled the plug soon as the bond was over. So my point to you is just knowing that you could quit. Yeah, like somebody's put in the chat screen, you're right, like feeling imprisoned. Just knowing that you could quit gives you the freedom and the mental space. It makes you realize I'm not stuck in this. I'm not stuck at this desk. I can walk out right now if I want to, and this whole game will be over. That gives you the courage and strength to actually go on and push harder. So it's a very interesting phenomenon, and I faced this myself. I remember as a fresher when I just started working. I don't want to name the company, company in Bangalore. And I started off as a CAD CAM and CAE trainer, and I realized that I wasn't even used to being in the same building the whole day, because as a student, as an engineering student, I was used to bunking classes, leaving college early, sometimes not going to college, and so on. When I was here at this company, staying from morning till evening, and you expected to stay there every day, just that was a culture shock. But I realized that I'm not imprisoned here. I can walk out when I feel like. I can go out, look for another job. I can quit, take a break and come back. Just that knowledge and having the sense that this is an option that I have gave me the freedom of continuing there. And later I eventually quit that company because I wanted to, not because I felt imprisoned there, or I felt stuck. Okay, so there's something for you to remind yourself of. You're never stuck anywhere. Nobody's holding you, tying you down to some place. Okay, so you can leave a company, you can quit what you're doing. And I was just sharing this with I was doing a workshop yesterday and the day before in Chennai, and I was just sharing with them that in my career I've trained in different organizations, starting with some very small companies, and I realized in those companies that people have issues with their salary, issues with their company culture, politics in the company, don't like their managers, whatever. Then I started training for some better companies. Okay. And even in those companies, I found the same challenges. And in recent times, I don't want to mention names of companies, but you can think about it. Think about the biggest, most powerful automobile companies in the world. Think about the most powerful consulting companies in the world. Think about the elite pharma companies. And I've noticed that even in these organizations, where people would do anything to get a job. Even there, the people who are working there don't like their salaries. They're not happy with it. They're not happy with the company culture, their colleagues, the boss, and so on. So my point is that you can quit your job, but you will carry, you will meet the same challenges again and again. You're not running away from anything. Okay? But what you can't quit is your true calling. So your reason to quit should not be because you're running away from something. Should be because you're running towards something. So I urge all of you, if you want to quit, you should be quitting because you're moving ahead, not because you're running away. So think about, do spend time thinking about what it is that you really want to do. Do spend time thinking about, um, what really interests you. I mean, it's easy to quit a job, but then what? I mean, I find a whole brigade of people nowadays who are saying, I want to retire at 40. Yes, very good. And what do you plan to do after that? And they're quite clueless. And they have this sense that if I retire at 40, I'll just slog out and get burnt out and do all those things which I hate till I'm 40, and then I'm gonna quit, and they think something great's gonna happen after that. But the question is, even if you quit today, you have to have a clear idea of what you want to do in life, even if you didn't have the job that you're doing right now. The other interesting phenomenon, this is really for people who know what they want to do and who are trying to get in there, is get educated. Bodhi runs a program. We run a program called the Train the Trainer certification, and we also run a workshop called the Master Trainer certification. And one of the things that, I mean, I constantly meet people who are making career shifts. And though this is a 4-day certification workshop, it's pretty short in my view, but it's been adequate for a lot of people to shift their careers into a career in training and development with no background in training, with absolutely no background in training. Okay, and this is a fantastic program. It's a powerful program. Now imagine you stop what you're doing, or while you're working where you're working, you started doing a long distance master's program, or you started doing an executive MBA, or you started studying something in a completely different field which you want to shift into. It's a great way for you to move into the field of your choice. But of course, if you want to do that, the starting point is for you to spend time thinking about what you might enjoy. That's critical. And what this does is, for example, I know somebody who lives in Beverly Hills in California. In fact, it's a friend's friend. And while I haven't spent time talking to that person, knowing that person personally, I've heard enough about him. And this is what I find interesting. He was a filmmaker till his mid 50s. And in his mid 50s, he went back to school, did a master's in psychology, and now he's a psychotherapist, and he sees clients, and he has a fantastic clientele because he has all these friends and the social circle of people who are in the film industry, who are part of the the Hollywood industry. So what getting educated does is, one is it teaches you and equips you for a new career. Secondly, what it does is it gives you an exposure to people who want to do the same thing that you are looking forward to doing, or perhaps people who are already doing it and then just came back to get a formal education. So this is certainly a great way for you to transition or drift into a career and life of your choice. And just in relation to that, a fantastic field of sunflowers. And what I want you to take back from this is that every field looks like this from the outside. Every field looks colorful from the outside, and there is somehow the sense among many of us that the field out there is interesting. We don't realize a lot of difficulties. This is called the swan effect. When you watch the swan gracefully moving across the surface of the water, what we fail to realize is the kind of paddling and hard work that goes on below the surface. So it's important for you to understand the nuances and what goes on behind the scenes of every field. And there was somebody who was recently telling me this, a very senior guy from the hospitality industry, and he said, people come to a five-star hotel and all they see is the glamour. And a lot of them have no idea what happens behind, in the kitchen, in the back rooms, in the staff areas. They have no idea what happens. It's not the glamour that you see outside. What you see is just cosmetic. So I urge you, don't look at a field and look at somebody doing it well and look at somebody being successful and saying, wow, that's the field I want to be in. Well, what you might be seeing is just this field of sunflowers. You have no idea what might be happening, what that person might have gone through. Okay, so it's a good idea for you to try out different fields before you make a shift. I mean, the grass on the other side always looks greener. There will be other people who are looking at your field and saying, wow, I wish I was into IT, and I wish I was a programmer. I wish I was into testing, and so on. I recently met a cousin of mine who said, I want to get into sales. And I said, why? You're an engineer. Do you want to do sales? He said, yeah, because these sales guys, they meet targets and they have huge incentives and they get to travel abroad. And I said, really? I mean, part of why he was saying what he was saying is because he was a fresher. Okay, but I urge you to look closer into every field and look at what happens below the surface. Ask people who are working in the field, what are your toughest parts of the month? What are your toughest challenges? What are the issues that you lost sleep over in the last 3 months? That will give you a sense of, are those things that you can deal with and still love your job? And finally, I'd mentioned this in the last webinar, this is no way to quit. I think it's a good idea for you to quit sensibly, quit in a planned fashion, start doing, don't just walk into office someday and, quit your job and say, okay, now I quit my job, what do I do next? I think that's a ridiculous thing to do. If you're smart, if you want to play the game well, you should first start with identifying what you really love. Secondly, spend time doing that and start doing that in the evenings and weekends. And let me assure you, if you say you want to become, say if you say I want to quit my job and become a writer, if you don't have the discipline and the interest to write on the evenings and weekends, you're not going to quit your job and become a full-time writer. On the contrary, if you've been able to do that dedicatedly on evenings and weekends, that means you like that field well enough, you're able to deal with the difficulties and mental barriers of getting into the field enough for you to be able to handle it well. And when you finally quit, you'll be able to invest all your energy into becoming successful in your new field. So folks, that's pretty much what I have to say. I just want to leave you with two last thoughts. Whether you quit your job or not, or you're enjoying your job or not, one thing I urge all of you to do is start doing something that you enjoy. Forget about your job. Just forget about your job. Start doing something that you enjoy every day. Let your brain recognize that you have the strong enjoyment muscle which you can exercise. I mean, here there are a group of people doing Tai Chi. And sometimes when you do something which you enjoy, it has so much of energy and power that it actually gears you, it keeps you going for the rest of the week or the month, right? So without fail, make sure every day you spend at least some time doing what you love, doing what you truly enjoy. Anything. It could be reading, writing, listening to music, martial arts, yoga, going for a walk, a run. Do something that you enjoy every day. What this does is it helps your brain identify this new sensation. The worst people are the people who wake up, hate their jobs, go to work, hate the whole day, hate the traffic, hate themselves at night and go to sleep. Your brain doesn't even identify the enjoyment emotion. Expose your brain to the fact that you have this enjoyment muscle in your head. So start doing this, and One important, very important idea, and this is the last idea for this webinar, is that, there is this sense among people that, there's a right field out there. If I get into that field, I'll be happy. If I go abroad and work in Canada, I'll be happy. And let me tell you, I've noticed this among a lot of people. It's not about the field that you work in. uh, People, like I gave you the example of companies and people just being dissatisfied with their salaries. What does that tell you? That tells you your satisfaction has nothing to do with the brand image or how big the company you work with is. It has to do with you. If you're a cribber, you could work in Google, Facebook, or Apple and still crib. If you're a person who's enjoys life, you could work with a small startup or a medium-sized company and still enjoy life. So one thing to certainly work on is the way you look at all areas of your life. So um, the thought that I want to leave you with is, do consider the fact that it might just not be about your job. Maybe that's just what we think. Maybe it's just about ourselves. Maybe there's no such thing as an ideal job. In fact, for the longest time, work was just meant to be something that gave us money for food. It was not meant to be something that we enjoyed. This phenomenon of, are you in the right field? Do you enjoy work, is a recent phenomenon. So I urge all of you to think about this. Maybe your job has nothing to do with you enjoying life. Maybe enjoying life is a quality that you need to build overall. And once you have that quality, you enjoy waking up in the morning, you enjoy brushing your teeth, you enjoy having breakfast, you enjoy your work, you enjoy spending time with your family. You become a person who knows how to enjoy life. And the fact that you enjoy work is just incidental. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think the clock has ticked. I have taken 1 or 2 minutes more. Thank you for your time. I mean, those of you who are busy, you can carry on. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Uh, but I'd like to leave you with these details here. Do get in touch with us if you have an interest in attending any of our workshops. We have an upcoming Train the Trainer certification. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. My name is Vinesh Sukumaran. I am the principal consultant and one of the directors of Bodhi. Okay, who do we have here? We have some people saying thanks. Thank you, Vinesh. It's a good session. We really enjoyed. Thank you so much. Bodhi really made useful day in Karnataka strike. Yeah, those of you who are not from Karnataka, we're having a strike in Karnataka today. But the good thing about online learning sessions is no strike really stops it. Uh, my neighbors and my family was a part of it. Oh, that's nice. It's nice to well, I don't want to say kill many birds with one stone, but it's nice to create positive impact on more people through one session. Thanks a lot, Rupa. I'm glad you enjoyed the session. So I'm going to be online for a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But those of you who are here, uh, who are done, who have to leave, you can carry on. But I'm just going to hang out for a couple of minutes if you do have anything to share or ask. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Those of you who are in Karnataka, I think it's a nice quiet day with no traffic. I think you can enjoy that. And those of you who are in other parts of the world, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.